code P0a3f. It's a hybrid shutdown code, and it points to the resolver for MG2 in your hybrid transmission. It is a pretty rare code. If you get it, it is a really scary code, and I'm fixing to explain why. So, I was driving the car, and prior video I think I talked about this, and she went into this mode. And it mode left me stranded on the side of the road. I had a battery that was going bad, 12-volt battery that was going bad. And what happened is it threw this code and didn't throw another code, I don't believe. No, I didn't know what the code was. Okay, so what happened, the car said check hybrid system, went on the side of the road, shut down. So I had noticed that my 12-volt cigarette lighter charger for my phone was flashing. So that was an indication that the 12 volts wasn't coming to the cigarette lighter charger, or it was bad. I assumed the cigarette lighter had a malfunction. So I wound up taking it, and I wound up taking the battery out, walking it down to the store, getting it tested. It was bad. Put the new 12-volt battery in, pulled the safety plug on the hybrid battery, reset the system that way, and off I'm going. I figured no big deal. That was the problem. Of course, when you reset the hybrid system through the safety switch on the hybrid battery, high voltage battery, it clears the codes. So it happened again. And I'm like, oh, what's going on now? So cleared the code, and it happened a third time. And the third time it happened, I said, I better carry a scanner. So I got my bidirectional scanner, threw it in the car. And because every time I get it going without a scanner, I lose the code. The fourth time it happened, I was definitely stranded. Couldn't reset it with the scanner. I couldn't reset it with the plug, removing it from the battery. It was running, but it wouldn't move. So I got towed into a shop, and they're taking a look at it. And I'm spending, hours online trying to figure this out. And in the diagnosis, it says that you can check the wiring going to the components in the vehicle. So let's go take a look at the vehicle, and I'll come back to this thing. So in the vehicle, that's got the resolver in it. That what we're just looking at is the outer case cover for the transmission, which has the MG2 resolver in it. So in stepping through to try and diagnose this, from what I could ascertain on the repair manuals and forums, they're saying that you should, if you look at that gray plug, you see that little gray plug down in there? Now, the way I understand it, that plug splits out of the plug coming out of the transmission. That plug has something to do with the resolver, okay? The problem is it's really hard to get to, and that is a cover for that plug. Let's see if I can get my light down in here and show you. So this has got that gray, you see that gray plug? Come on, focus. See it? So you got to get that cover off and pull the plug and check it and yada, yada, yada. They want you to check the plugs and make sure they're secure and there's no water intrusion in them. Also, you want to check these for the ECU for the hybrid system. That was another recommendation, just to make sure they're locked down and latched and tight. I pulled mine, checked them, they were fine. And back to the case for the transmission, we're going to talk about that. Now, what I didn't know was that my drive shaft was going out. I knew I had a hum in the front end, but I figured it was the bearing that I replaced in the front end this summer, and it was just going bad again. And it wasn't. It was the drive shaft. Keep that in mind. We're going to come back to that. So this is the outer case for the transmission. Went to the junkyard, pulled this. So looking at the transmission as it sits on the ground, this plug, actually, all this is it's like a connector plug. There is no sensor in here, but it does go to the resolver. And the resolver, this is the oil pump. Okay, so for the hybrid transmission. The resolver's right here. Now, a lot of people don't know a squat about these resolvers. I did a lot of research on this. So that wire, if you see here, this wire plugs into an intermediary plug. And that's all that is. That's intermediary plug. This thing, because you got to have a seal in the case. So check this plug on the transmission. And listen to what I'm saying. Check these connections right here. Make sure they're tight. Okay, see them? And check that one. But to do that, you got to pull the cover. Now, the problem with the resolver, these are set at the factory. Now let me go over taking this apart, because you do it wrong, you ruin the resolver. When you take this off, this transmission cover, you got to take some brackets out, get some brackets out of the way. You got to remove the inverter, and there's some other bracket that's in the way to reach all the bolts around the transmission. You got to remove the wheel and get some other components out of the way. So what you don't want to do, you see these bolts here? Here and here. Do not loosen them. Don't take them out. They hold the resolver, and the resolver's factory set with an oscilloscope. If you loosen those bolts, 1, 2, and 3, your resolver, even if you tighten it back down, can shift. It'll move. These are clockable, okay? And what this does is it detects the position of the drive motor, right? Electronically. See the coils in there, okay? So more than likely, you don't have a resolver problem. Now, the reason why I pull this apart is because I said, well, worst case scenario, I have a resolver problem. And if I do, I'll just change the cover. But it's got to be the resolver for MG2. MG1, motor resolver issue, get rid of your transmission. Because you can't take these out and put them back in and set them right. You have no way to do it, okay? But this is why Toyota, in its service manuals, will tell you to throw away or replace the transmission, throw away the old one, even if it's MG2, because they're not going to tell you to find a cover with a resolver that's functioning fine, okay? And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think the resolvers go out that much. It's a possibility. I think it's all in the connections. You might have a loose connection here. Remember the intermediary plug? You might have a loose connection there. But the only way to check this is you got to take the cover off. And you got to use the Toyota sealant for transmissions. Don't use the sealant from Toyota for motors. You got to use the red stuff for transmissions, okay? That's important. Don't use anything else on this. And then to remove this, you're going to remove the bolts for the oil pump, and then there's a long shaft. It's about 10 inches long that you need to pull that shaft out for the oil pump. And then there's a little gear for the oil pump also. And of course, you remove the cover, remove the shaft, remove the gear. And then you've got the oil pump out of the way, and then you're going to remove all your other bolts here all the way around. See them? And then you can get this out. So if I have any more problems with this thing, my second to last thing I'm going to do is replace the cover with this resolver intact. If that's solved, I think I've solved the problem because the code cleared itself after we cleaned the outside of the plugs and whatnot. But I'll come back to that. Let me finish with this. So any more problems? I'm replacing the cover with this resolver. If that doesn't work, I'm replacing that transmission. Okay, I'm just going to get one out of somewhere. Pick and pull. Not pick and pull. I'm going to get one with a warranty that's been pulled that I don't have to pull. Those are kind of a pain in the ass to pull. So anyway, coming back to the other issues at hand with this thing. Right now, what happened is when my drive shaft leaked, it flung grease all over the place, all over. So the problem with this drive shaft throwing grease everywhere, I don't know if we're going to be able to see it, but let's try and take a peek in here. It's pretty well buried. Oh, let me see if I can see it. Yeah, shit, you can't see it. Let me see here. Hold on. It's going to be a little bit of a long video because I want to explain this. Keys in the house. Am I going to have enough distance? I'm not going to have enough distance. Anyway, let me just verbally explain this. Can't see it. Can I? Okay, so above, inside here, along the transmission, on the back side of the transmission, you go up to the top of the transmission, there's a high voltage plug, okay? And then there's another plug on the back side of it. I don't remember what that does, but it was covered in grease. Now, yeah, you wouldn't think that grease being on the plug, and I don't think that grease being on the plug from the driveline failing caused an issue. It's possible, okay? But anyway, sprayed that down with a degreaser, pressure washed it all, cleaned it all up. And then that front plug, the one I just showed you on the cover, right, for the resolver, there was nothing wrong with that, but pulled it out. The prior person that had it at his shop pulled it out, pushed it back in. And then there's another plug on the transmission that's for the parking mechanism that locks in the transmissions in park. He pulled that one, but that's going to have nothing to do with a hybrid, I would assume, because nothing points to that. But anyway, clean that, check that. So those plugs were actually not greasy, okay, but checked them anyway. So in the process of him, the mechanic, pulling the plug for the resolver on the transmission that I just showed you, and then pulling the parking pawl plug for the electronic parking pawl, that caused the car to be drivable, and it cleared its own code for the check hybrid system when I drove it home. Okay, which was very strange. So I'm going to say that plug, there was something going on in the plug for the resolver in that cover I just showed you. Okay, and when he pulled the plug, it was clean, looked in it, put it back, it seated better, or who knows, whatever. Now I'm going to tell you something else that I think is going on. And this is a far shot, about as far as what I just described. That drive shaft was going out, and it's causing a vibration in the front end, right? Now let's go take a look at this cover. Because if you got a drive shaft that's going out and it's vibrating, or even a wheel bearing, okay, that's going to cause a frequency going straight into the transmission, straight into the drive motor, going right through what? The resolver. So I'm going to tell you what I think. Because this is attached to the drive motor, right? And then you got your drive shaft going into the transmission. And if you got a vibration in the transmission, I'm thinking that can cause some problems with the electronics in here. Just a thought. It could cause some interference. Vibrating the transmission obviously would cause some interference, in my opinion, with the resolver working properly. So the way this works, on the other side of this would be the motor. Electrical motor sits in here, and it's got an oblong washer, and it has, not only is the washer oblong, but it wobbles up and down. It's bent up and down, okay? So it spins around like elliptically and up and down, right? And that's how they use it to sense the position on the drive motor, okay? But that's pretty technical. I was probably quite surprised in all of this stuff. They're pretty damn technical with all the stuff that's on here. But if as delicate as that process would be of a washer spinning around that's oblong and having to vibrate, it doesn't vibrate. It has an up and down contour to it. Any vibration in that transmission is going to throw that off. So here's my take on it. If you have a wheel bearing going out, or you have a drive shaft going out, and you're getting this code, fix the drive shaft, fix the wheel bearing, clear the code, cross your fingers, take a bidirectional scanner with you and cross your fingers and hope you don't throw the code again. And if you throw the code again, check the plugs that we just described, okay? And if you're still throwing the code, get a cover, change the cover on the transmission. And if you're still throwing the code, get rid of the transmission and put a new one in. I hope I've resolved my problem, but I have the $35 part from Pick and Pull. And if it gives me any more issues, we're throwing this on. And like I said, I'll check the stators and the windings inside the motor when I pull the cover off, if we have to do that. I got 220,000 miles. Oh, another thing. I just changed the fluid in the transmission 40,000 miles ago, and it was just nasty dark. And I used synthetic AMSOIL. I called AMSOIL. I don't remember what type of AMSOIL transmission fluid I used, but they said it would work in here. It met or exceeded the specifications for the oil in a transmission. So that's what I put in. But we drained that, and I was like, yuck. So I'm going to tell you right now, as dark as that was, and I don't hammer my car, man. This thing's in eco mode. I'm trying to get good fuel economy. I'm running about, if I baby it, about 48 miles a gallon. So anyway, in eco mode, change your fluid in your transmission, definitely, about every 30 to 50,000 miles. No questions asked. And just use the Toyota stuff. Yeah, it was $70 for 4 quarts of Toyota, blah, 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 transmission fluid. But I went in and got it, and that's what I'm going to use from now on. Because Toyota guys said, hey, there's some additives in the transmission fluid that they don't brag about that help the transmission. So with the electrical motors and the windings and all that. So anyway, that's what I've done. So hopefully this helps some people out. This is a pretty uncommon code. And the only video I could find on it was a Russian talking about this. And I didn't understand what he was saying, but I sure as hell understood what he was doing. Oh, here's that pump shaft for the oil. This is the one you got to take out. Let's get it out so I can show you, because if you pull this cover, this is going to be in the way. Come on, get out of there. Here's the oil pump and so here's the oil pump cover. And then there's that shaft for the oil pump cover, and then the oil pump gears in here somewhere. It's in there. There it is. See it? Gear, oil pump shaft, oil pump cover. And like I said, do not remove the resolver bolts, okay? Because then you're wasting your time. All right. Hopefully that helps people out. If you got some questions, let me know. This is where I'm at. I seem to have resolved my problem. I think my problem, primarily, I think the problem was caused by vibration coming from the drive shaft going bad. And secondarily, it could be some grease getting on a connector and somehow causing problems with the wires going into the connector. I know they're supposed to be sealed. That was cleaned. And that's where I'm at. So I will do an updated video if I have any more problems with this and I have to replace this cover so I have the ability to put in a new resolver. I'll do an updated video and let you know. All right, over and out.